What's up, everybody? It's Mr. Hauser. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to do a lesson on word study. You may notice that I like word study lessons, and yes, that is true. I think that it builds a strong foundation in language, which I think is very valuable for kids to learn the rules of words as well as look for patterns in words. It helps them apply those when their vocabulary is growing. And their vocabulary grows. So instead of learning these words in isolation, they're able to sort of apply the same functions and rules to those words. They're able to connect them in patterns to words that they already know. And so I think that it's a good way of building structure in language, because we do have structure in language. That's kind of something that I don't feel like I learned until I learned a second language in middle school and high school. When I was learning Spanish, then it was like, oh, there are verb tenses, and these are how they work, and oh, there are spelling patterns, and these are how they work. So I try and do that with kids' first language, because I think that it helped me understand both languages when I was able to see that there was that predictability and consistency with it. So today we're going to learn about contractions. That's going to be the type of word that we're going to focus on right now. So what is a contraction? A contraction is when two words are put together to make one word. And that's not it. So let's take a closer look at that, because that definition sounds a lot like a compound word as well. If you take a look at this, a compound word is when two words are put together to make a new word. You can see the whole first word, you can see the whole second word, and you can hear both words as well. Examples of that would be baseball, or doorbell, or backpack, or even outside. Where you hear both words, and in some cases there might even be a third word, but you see and hear all of those words in their entirety. A contraction, however, is again where two words are put together, except they're not quite the same as a compound word. In a contraction, it's usually where the first word is the whole word, and you hear that first word as well. But the second word doesn't quite all make it. You can notice that there's some letters that have been taken out, and that's sort of a shortcut. It's a way of saying the word without saying the full word. And so in this case, you can see the W and the D are there in both, but the O and the R have been removed. What you do to show that they've been removed, instead of just you're not spelling it right, is to put an apostrophe. An apostrophe, for my students, I've referred to it a lot like a shelf marker. When we go to the school library, the kids get a shelf marker to walk around with as they look for books. It's a small piece of wood that goes into the shelf wherever they've taken a book out. What it does is it helps the kid know where to put the book back if they don't want to keep that book. It also shows other people that there's a book that's missing from that spot. So an apostrophe is very similar to that, because where we put it is where those letters have been removed. So no matter if it's one letter, two letters, three or four letters, however many letters it is, that's where we put the apostrophe, is where those letters were removed. Okay, now this isn't a real contraction. This is more of a diagram to show what it looks like. Let's take a look at some real contractions so that we can move on. The point of this would be to notice, hey, get out of there. What I want you to notice with these is that there's some, again, patterns. So I pulled out a couple words that have I, and they can all be turned into contractions. So you can see I am could be turned into the contraction I'm. In that case, we see the I, which is the first word. It's exactly like it normally is. But the second word, am, has been shortened. The A was removed, and in its place we put an apostrophe. I have becomes I've. Again, I is there, but have has been changed so that it's just the last two letters. The H and the A have been removed, and that's where we put the apostrophe. In I'll, I will becomes I'll. In that case, we see I is still there, just like it normally is, but the L's are still there at the end, but the W and the I have been removed, and so we put an apostrophe exactly where those letters used to be, or where they would have been if we wanted to make them into a compound word. The sight, what you see is one thing, but you also want to know how to read a word that's a contraction. And what you'll notice is that in most cases, you'll read the first word just like it is. Now this is just one letter, but you will see as other ones show as well, you say the first word like it is. You don't say this is im. you say it's I'm, because that acknowledges where it comes from, which is I. This isn't ill, it's I'll, and that's because it comes from the word I. All right? If we look at a few other examples, all of these go with the word will. He will becomes he'll. She will becomes she'll, not shall. We can't just ignore that apostrophe. And then we'll look at what it will become. In these cases, you can see that the first word is still there, but the second word has been changed a little bit. We've taken out the W and the I, and in their place put an apostrophe. So what would this one be? It will. Let's see. He will was he'll. She will was she'll. It will is what? What do you think that is? It'll sound weird when you hear it in isolation. That means by itself. So if you just say the word by itself, it'll sound weird. But if you noticed, I just used it in a sentence, and it didn't sound that weird. The word is it'll. The contraction that you're looking for this is it'll, which sounds kind of old-timey and sounds weird, but in fact, that's what we say. And I just used it a couple times, and maybe you picked up on that, maybe you didn't. But it's something that you'll hear more often, and it'll feel more comfortable when you hear it. There's a third time I snuck one in there. So it'll feel more comfortable the more you hear it, and realize that that's a contraction used that comes from it will. We can see in these cases that these are all using the word is as the second word. So that's going to be the part that changes. The first word doesn't change. So it is becomes it's. You can see the first word is still there. That is becomes that's. The word that stays there. There it is becomes theirs. The whole first word is there, right? And what is becomes what's. The whole first word, what, is there in the contraction too. What is changed is the word is. You can see that we have an S, but the apostrophe is to show that the I has been removed, okay? So if we were to look at a couple examples down here, your. And if you were in my class, then you've had lots of experience with your. Comes up a couple times on our orange belt word list. And here is a third version of it. The only difference is this one actually follows the rules. So what does your come from? What two words? Well, if you take a look at it, we can tell that here's the word you, so it comes from you. But what's that second word? What do you think? In most cases, it's you are. Okay, so R is A-R-E. You can see the letter A was removed, and there's an apostrophe in its place. What about this one? Let 'em. Let 'em. Let 'em figure it out. Let 'em figure it out. That's what I always say. That's not what I always say, but that's what I'm saying now because that's how I'm using it. Let 'em. Well, we know it's using the word let, but what's M? M? Emily? I don't know. Emma? I don't know. Emma? No. But what is M? E-M. E-M is what's left of the word them. Let them. Let them figure it out. That's what I always say. That's not what I always say. But in this case, that's what I was trying to say. So let them becomes let 'em. Let 'em. Let 'em. And again, it sounds a little old-timey if it's just in isolation, but we actually use that, I think, a lot more commonly than we might think. One of the common contractions uses the word not at the end. So here we have wasn't, couldn't, didn't, hadn't. All of those have N apostrophe T in it. And the reason why is because the second word in each of those is not. So it should have, or it comes from was not, could not, did not, and had not. What we've done is we've kept the N, taken out the O, and put the T there too. When we take out the O, that's where we put the apostrophe. I remember as a kid, I always was thinking, do I put the apostrophe that separates the two words, or do I put the apostrophe here? I could never figure it out. And it's because I was never really taught that it goes in the place of the missing of the letters that were taken out. So if you can remember that, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter that the N is more connected to the first word, because the apostrophe's job is not to separate the two words. The job is to show that we've removed some letters. So this last one, won't. What do you think that comes from? Let's see. Well, wasn't, couldn't, didn't, hadn't, won't not? I will not do it? That doesn't sound right. This is one that does not follow the pattern. So this is actually a word, a contraction that comes from will not. I guess they didn't feel comfortable saying willn't, and so we switched it to won't. I don't know the history, to be honest, of it, but I know that doesn't follow the pattern. So that's one that we have to just sort of remember is different than the rest. Will not becomes won't. We don't say willn't, and it's not from the words woe and not, because woe is not what we want to say. So I'm going to share. I'm going to move into a story. I think you've had enough word work for now. What I'm going to do is move into a story. The good thing is that this story uses a lot of contractions. So as I read, I want you to try and figure out which contractions you hear and what purpose they have. That means like what two words were put together in order to make that contraction, because a contraction is two words that go together to make one. Only the second word isn't quite in its entirety. It's not the whole word. So this is the book Faucet Fish, and it's written by Faye Robinson, illustrated by Wayne Anderson. Faucet Fish. Hope you like fish. I guess this is what, the second video, third video this week that's been about fish. I don't know why. It just happens to be what I'm in the mood for. So, Elizabeth loved fish. She spent every Saturday at the aquarium down the street, drawing her favorite ones. Everyone at the aquarium knew her. The aquarium librarian let her take out all the best books. The fish feeder let Elizabeth give snails to the octopus. The plumber even let Elizabeth help clean the fish tanks. At home, Elizabeth had only a guppy. She wanted more than that. Mom, can I have a piranha? No, Elizabeth, you may not have a banana. We're eating lunch in just a minute, said Elizabeth's mother. Mom, did you hear me? I said I want a piranha. It's a kind of fish. I already have a fishbowl for it. Elizabeth kept several fishbowls on hand in hopes of using them someday. One fish is enough, Elizabeth, maybe in a few years when you're more responsible. Eesh, grumbled Elizabeth. There's that one guppy. One day, Elizabeth was washing her hands in the bathroom sink. Suddenly, plunk, a trout plopped out of the faucet. Oh boy, said Elizabeth. She ran to get one of her fish bowls. Mom, Elizabeth called, look, a trout. Yes, dear, said her mother, but she wasn't listening. The next day, while Elizabeth brushed her teeth, a flounder flopped out of the faucet. Elizabeth couldn't believe her luck. Dad, said Elizabeth, why do flounders have both eyes on the same side? Elizabeth, show me your project later. I'm busy now, said Elizabeth's father. Nobody ever listens to me, said Elizabeth. Elizabeth turned the water on again. Just as she expected, another fish appeared. This one was a little larger than the others and didn't quite fit into any of her fish bowls. Elizabeth gathered all of the allowance she had made saving. Elizabeth gathered up all the allowance she had been saving and hurried to the pet store. She bought 3 large fish tanks and hauled them home. The next day, a moray eel oozed out of the faucet. A clown triggerfish followed. Then a squid showed up. Soon there were tanks full of fish on every shelf in every corner. Catfish, dogfish, jellyfish, and rays, sticklebacks, halibut, lumpfish, skates, swishing, zipping, and splashing with delight. Elizabeth's parents hadn't noticed. Elizabeth thought she should bring it to their attention. I just love having all these fish around, she said at dinner. "That's nice, dear. Please pass the pepper," said her mother. Elizabeth tried again. "My favorite fish so far is the sea dragon. Look, it's watching us." "Personally, my favorite dish is cauliflower rutabaga pie. Maybe I'll make one tomorrow," said her father. After dinner, Elizabeth decided to take a bath. She had just turned on the water when a giant mouth appeared. Elizabeth jumped back and waited while the creature finished swishing through the pipes. Soon a baby beluga whale splashed into the tub. Elizabeth sighed. "There's no room for any more fish, much less a whale," she said. "It's time to make my parents listen." She stomped down the stairs. "Mom, Dad, I've got a problem," Elizabeth said. "Don't worry, dear," said her mother. "Most children think they have problems." "Okay, you guys, listen to me," said Elizabeth. "There are fish coming out of the faucets in my bathroom." "Oh my, when I was a child I thought there were snakes in the heating ducts," said Elizabeth's father. "But there really are fish," said Elizabeth. "Don't you see them?" Before her parents could respond, a rumble from above interrupted them. "What's that?" said Elizabeth's father, looking up. The ceiling tiles shook and clacked. A trickle of water dribbled onto the kitchen table. "Is it raining?" asked Elizabeth's mother. A clanging, banging sound came next. The trickle became a small waterfall. Ceiling tiles clattered to the floor. The noise grew thunderous. "I think we should get out of the way," called Elizabeth, pulling her parents to the side. Suddenly the ceiling split open as something huge and gray came whooshing down. Crash! The beluga whale looked sweetly at Elizabeth's mother from the tub. "Elizabeth, can you explain this fish?" asked Elizabeth's mother. "It's a beluga whale, Mom." "Yes, honey, but what's it doing here in our kitchen?" "It came out of the faucet. It must have been too heavy for the bathroom floor. There are lots of others. I've been trying to tell you." "I'll call the fire department," said Elizabeth's mother. "And I'll call the National Guard," said Elizabeth's father. Elizabeth patted the whale on the head. "I'll call the plumber from the aquarium. He'll know what to do," she said. The plumber arrived and got right to work. My, looks like you've got yourself a fish jam," he said. "Yep, a traffic jam of fish. Happens when the aquarium pipes cross with folks' plumbing. It's a lot more common than people think." What? said Elizabeth's mother. "They don't like being stuck in a pipe any more than you would," he explained. "The only thing to do is to turn on all the faucets and let them out." Elizabeth and the plumber shut all the windows and turned on all the faucets. Then they led everyone outside. The house filled up with water. Soon there were fish peering out from every window. "Might as well turn your house into an aquarium," said the plumber with a wink. "Can't live in it now." Elizabeth shouted, "Yes!" Her parents gasped. Elizabeth and her family moved to a house nearby. Elizabeth's old house became a home for wayward fish. Elizabeth took excellent care of them. And from then on, Elizabeth's parents listened very carefully whenever Elizabeth spoke, especially when she mentioned a new hobby. And the new hobby involves snakes. Yikes. The end. All right. So Faucet Fish by Faye Robinson. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you heard those contractions that we talked about. They're made from two words, except the first word is all there The second word, however, is some letters have been removed and an apostrophe put in their place. So as we continue to look at words, reading contractions is almost as important, well, is just as important as understanding what words they come from. So you want to read the first word in most cases, and then whatever letters are left, you sort of make a shortcut with your mouth to make that sound. All right, so keep that in mind, and yeah, we'll keep at it. So hopefully my little green friend won't bother me next time. So take care, and thanks for watching. Bye.